Well, hello there. I'm back at it, trying another stream this week. If you caught the stream on Saturday, you know potentially that it didn't last very long. Ended up getting cut short by a power outage, but had some time this evening. I figured I would hop on and just see what we can talk about. So welcome to another Think With Me Not Thursday. I'm Justin with Effective. I would love to chat anything productivity, Obsidian, productivity systems, personal knowledge management, anything like that. So if you have any questions during the stream, be sure to pop them in the chat. That's what we're here to talk about, right? But in the meantime, I think I'm just going to noodle around a little bit. I've got a couple of things that I was thinking about exploring inside of Miro, some productivity systems work, and then also there's always something to deal with inside of Obsidian. So yeah, say hi in the chat. Let me know where you're coming from. Glad to have you here tonight with me. And yeah, let's just dig into it. Cool. So if you've followed along with any of these other live streams in the past, I spent a couple weeks actually working on this Miro board here. Just different things that I wanted with the productivity system. Now, keep in mind, this was earlier on before, if you know any bit about my story and stuff that's happened over the last year, had a job, then didn't have a job. Now I have a job and the job is different. And the culture and the productivity requirements of it are different. And so this overall plan is something that I still find helpful, but the details of it, yeah, not so much. And so I think I'm going to spend a little bit of time looking at the overall system and try to figure out what's happening where. The big thing I know right now is there is now a split in my system where before I could have all of my stuff here, the yearly themes and the annual reviews and the OKRs and all the to-do lists and everything all in one system. Well, just due to the nature of my new job, I can't do that as well. There's some security limitations for that. And so I'm trying to figure out, think big picture, because part of the reason where I've been thinking about this is that because I don't have my familiar productivity toolkit that I'm used to in this new role, where I have felt a little like a fish out of water. And so I want to solve that problem. I want to figure out how I can do that. And so if you've never used Miro before, I think Miro is an awesome app for doing stuff like this. It's great to visualize things, diagram things out. I tend to be a visual thinker. I like to move stuff around on the screen and edit it over time. And I think Miro is an awesome choice for that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new frame somewhere. Just start off like that. I'm going to just move it up here. I will say that building a productivity system has been really difficult for me lately to actually stick to it. I don't know if you can relate to that or not. If you've tried to use any kind of productivity or PKM systems and stuff like that, but it's been hard for me to actually build something and commit to doing it, especially over the last 2 or 3 years. This is kind of where I am at right now. And I'm just going to start throwing sticky notes out because that's my favorite way to do that in Miro. Personally, I'm using Notion and Obsidian right now. Obsidian is on the PKM side of things. So it's primarily where I do a lot of my learning. It's where I do a lot of my thinking, a lot of my note-taking, things of that sort. Notion is where, because I think Notion handles structured information really well, but not some of the non-linear information that I like to put in Obsidian, that's where I do a lot of my project planning for this business, for Effective, for my personal life at this moment in time. And so that's kind of the tooling that I'm using over there. And then if I hop back over to this side, remember I've got a split here. On this side, I'm really stuck into the Office 365 world. So I'm really in Outlook, OneNote. These are kind of the buckets that I have. If I wanted to, I could use Microsoft To Do. There's also Planner. Now, here's a bit of commentary on this. I used to work for a company that was largely Windows only 4 or 5 years ago or so. And this was like at peak I am a Mac user time for me. And I was all in on using apps like OmniFocus or Things. And one of the things that I found out during that time regarding productivity on Windows is that it was kind of terrible. There really weren't any options over in the Windows ecosystem. There was Evernote, which was probably one of the best note-taking apps at that time in general, but it was really good on Windows. And then there was also Todoist, and Todoist wasn't natively very good on Windows. They kind of had a failure with their Windows 10 app that came out about that time. But they also had their web client was great. But I was full in on GTD, getting things done. I was full in on OmniFocus at that point. And at that moment, nothing was going to compare to those things. And so, but now, like 5 years later from that point, Microsoft acquired Wunderlist. If you don't remember, a few years ago, Microsoft bought Wunderlist. Wunderlist was a pretty simple task capture, task management application. It was nowhere near the likes of Things or OmniFocus in terms of features, but a lot of people loved it because it was simple. It was easy to use. You just clicked a little star and it made it important, and it made some nice little lists for you. You didn't really have to overdo it or overthink it in that application. But they've taken Wunderlist and they've made Microsoft To Do out of it. Just pull it up here for you. I don't have an account. Oh, apparently Microsoft's doing their Microsoft thing. They don't have much for that, but I recommend Francesco D'Alessio over at Keep Productive has some good videos on Microsoft To Do. It's think Wunderlist, but taken up to the next level. It still has a lot of the same simplicity of Wunderlist and the like, but it doesn't have the complexity of, say, an OmniFocus still. There's some limitations for it, but that being said, I'm not fully bought into using something like Microsoft To Do. I'm just going to put a big question mark on that. It works like a good task manager, but again, there is this disjointed nature between these two systems, the systems that govern my personal and my work life, and this business, and then my work life. And there's a lot of varying things over here that I'm not going to get into as far as where things that I might own, projects or tasks that I need to bring to completion, where I have to get where they come from, basically. Might be emails, might be chat messages, something pops up in Microsoft Planner, lots of different places. And so here is kind of what I am thinking. Because I have this approach. If you've followed along before, there's a couple of shorts on the channel. I've done some streams about it. I don't have a full video done for it yet because I'm still refining this out. So let me know what you think about this. But there's an approach of light framework called what I'm calling now the effective life framework, where there are 3 main levels to it. The top level being vision. So I'll just add this here. Do it in a shape instead, though, because I just think these are easier to deal with. And then strategy. And I'll get into these in just a second as to what they are. and then we'll do tactics. So this, to me, is a three-pronged framework to how to think about your life overall when it comes to things that you care about and things that you are responsible for. The vision level is really all about where are you now and where are you aiming yourself to go next. If I back up over here, for me, this really comes into the yearly theme and the Wheel of Life. I use a yearly theme a la CGP Grey, if you're familiar with the Cortex podcast. If not, check it out. Awesome discussions over there about this type of stuff. But where I set a word for the year that really just kind of dictates the broad theme of where I want to position myself and where I want to go for the year. And then I also use Zig Ziglar's Wheel of Life as just kind of an evaluative mechanism to see from the top down the big picture of my life, all the different relevant areas and their health. So you can see I have vision by this nice teal color. And then I measure that through an annual or a seasonal review. So every quarter or so, every year, I'll sit down and spend some time developing a yearly theme or checking in on my current theme and going through the Wheel of Life, just kind of trying to get a sense of what's going well. And then at the strategy level, this is where you're taking your yearly theme and your Wheel of Life, the insights that you've gained from that, about where you want to go. And you are putting it into actionable directions that you want to intentionally move in. So for example, you might create an OKR, an objective and key result, for something to do with your yearly theme. This year, I've talked about this a number of times on the channel, but this year my theme is the year of rebuilding, re being in parentheses, because there's things that I'm building and then things that I'm rebuilding in my life this year. And so an objective with that is building community, trying to reestablish a sense of community in the city that I live in with people, just because that kind of fell apart in some respects during the past few years due to the state of the world, things going on. And so that's an objective. That's not necessarily like a solid thing that I'm pursuing. Like I have to hit 10 lunches in the next 3 months. No, I'm not about that. But it's a picture of what I want my life to look like in more specificity than at this visionary level. But then that's what comes into the tactical area. There really is this is where like traditional getting things done comes in. PKM can come in, the two different tools and productivity strategies that we would call really tend to come in, time boxing and blocking, things of that sort. And I like to see this system as being pretty flexible. So like if you don't like OKRs, but you love SMART goals, then that would be great in the strategy level. Also, if you like to have more of a broad life mission versus something like a yearly theme, that could be applicable to vision level. If you hate getting things done, but maybe you like using the bullet journal, then that works over here too. So that in mind, coming back up here, I am looking at in my like business and personal life, which dictates a lot of the work stuff too. So I'm going to make an adjustment on this here. But largely, I am tracking a lot of my vision stuff inside of Notion. These are the objectives, or the yearly theme and the Wheel of Life that I'm doing on a semi-regular basis. I'm keeping those inside of Notion. And then at the strategy level, this is where it gets kind of interesting, because at work, there are KPIs, key performance indicators, and OKRs that we're following, which I also have personally. And so those are personally are going in Notion. And then at work, there's like a million places where those are at. And it's kind of more something for me to be aware of. I'll probably just put a reminder somewhere in OneNote for myself of what those are for me. And then I'm just, draw a little dot here for that. But then this is where it gets kind of challenging, the tactical level. how am I managing some of the day-to-day stuff? Again, because this is such a split system between my work stuff and my life stuff. I keep pointing at the screen over here and you can't see that, so I apologize about that. And so here's my proposal. Here is something that I am thinking about and I'm going to try doing, is that I have found, so I talked in the last stream that I did about this getting things done style setup that I was going to try inside of OneNote. Well, let me tell you what, that didn't work. It didn't work very well at all. In theory, being able to set up a projects list and then have a next actions list separate from it, that can work, but frankly, for the way that my brain works, I need to have a contextual connection between those a lot of times to figure out, am I making progress on this thing? If I have them in disparate places, it makes me kind of not have a lot of fun with productivity. Let's put it that way. And so I realized very quickly after using that this week that it wasn't working. And so here's my thought. I'm still looking at the broad level, at the strategic level, trying to manage projects for myself. So I'm gonna just pop open another post-it note here. I'm gonna make this a small one though, because it's, not a big bucket. It's a thing that needs to go somewhere. I do need to manage projects, and for my personal life, I am kind of managing them in Notion. A lot of the times I'm just doing this stuff because it's on my mind and I'm not really worrying about tracking it somewhere. But in the work context, there's a heck of a lot more that I need to manage. And I need to have a place to track that. And so I need to figure out where to do this. There's going to be instances where projects are tracked in, say, Microsoft Planner. There's also going to be instances where projects are tracked personally in OneNote, or let's even just say Office Docs, so like an Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to just pop this up over here. Put that next to that. It just makes a little bit more sense. So then at the tactical level, how am I going to manage the little tiny tasks that I need to do, the action items? Because those are really important, I mean, if I'm implementing this effective life framework and I'm trying to align my tactical level stuff with my visionary stuff and my strategic actions that I have set that I want to have, then I should be able to do that. I need to have a place where I can store those. Now, where I was struggling here is because I have Microsoft To Do, really the only option available for me over on the work side of things. To Do is great. As I mentioned already, it's improved the Microsoft productivity ecosystem quite a lot. However, it doesn't really fit the bill. Over here, I'll do this differently. I did mention this in my recent PKM video, that I was looking at getting back into doing OmniFocus again a bit. But again, this really was short-sighted of me because I thought that being able to use a Mac in a new computer environment would allow me to use something like this. Well, unfortunately, I cannot. So this is completely out of the picture now, which is okay. But I do know that using paper is okay. And I've always been a fan of the bullet journal, except I've really wrestled with, hey, Greg, welcome to the stream. Glad you're able to join on. I have always wrestled with fully adopting it because of the hybrid nature of it. Because, you end up disambiguating some of the things that you're doing digitally with the things that you're doing on paper. But it's because I don't think I have fully committed to using paper as well. And so this is where things really, I think I need to commit to this system. Let's just put it this way. But I am going to make this nice blue thing that's kind of a mix of these two colors. I am going to put my actions. These projects are going to create actions, and those actions are going to get stored in the bullet journal. The bullet journal is going to kind of be that capture spot. I'm also going to use probably either Drafts or OneNote to capture digitally. Well, maybe I'll do that in one of those. For capturing, because I don't always have a notebook with me, right? I'm not going to pull my notebook necessarily out on a plane when I've got my phone handy, or I'm not going to carry a notebook with me every single place that I go. And so, but then I have to sync those up back into the bullet journal. This is the one thing that I have wrestled with, honestly, over the last 18 months, is settling on a single source of truth. And the one, though, that I keep coming back to is paper, is the bullet journal. I have wrestled with it in the past as far as project management goes, but I need to also remember that I can't just manage projects in the bullet journal. I can put action items and things like that. I can make spreads or just have separate sheets instead of using the daily log for projects. I need to figure that aspect out of it. I need to experiment with it. But then ultimately, where things are going to get managed, ideas are going to be fleshed out, communications are going to happen. In my personal life and business here, it's going to be inside of Notion. And then also in my work life, it's not going to be Microsoft To Do. Sorry, I just can't do it. But Office, it's going to be in OneNote and Office Docs, and then potentially Planner or maybe another application. I really think that is probably going to be where this lands. The thing that I will say, though, that I have struggled with quite a lot, is overthinking this. I mean, you can see. Look at this. Look at this. I mean, I spent like 3 weeks working on this. I've kind of gone through this over and over again. I tend to overthink these systems, and the reason I overthink them. Oh, I didn't even show you that. Sorry. I mean, all of this here, all of this stuff up here. I tend to overthink it. I really do. But the aim, though, is for me to be able to simplify the system down to something that makes sense. But I can't get too wrapped up in the details of how am I going to do it in bullet journal and how am I going to handle things inside of Planner or OneNote, because I have found that over time, the organizational structures that work best for me are the ones that naturally and organically develop out of the work that I am doing, how I'm using the tool. So if I can pick the place where things are going to go and then just make it work, perfect. But I have to get over that hump of convincing myself that it's going to work and it's worthwhile. Greg is asking in the chat, would love to see how you capture to Drafts and then maybe to Obsidian. Great job as always, buddy. Well, thank you very much for that. I'll get to that in just a second. I want to touch on your next chat first, though. Greg also says, agreed, Bujo is great for action items and maintaining my calendar and just meeting notes. Yeah, and so here's the interesting thing. I hate using the bullet journal for calendar things. It's great for like little reminders for me of something that like maybe, oh, there's this thing coming up later today that I need to keep in mind. But when I'm working in an Office 365 environment, especially the job that I have right now, I have my email client open all day long. Probably need to change that, frankly, I'll be honest with you. But I have my calendar open all day long. And so I'm always seeing it. I'm always looking at it. And I know what's coming up in a work context. I don't miss stuff that way, especially because sometimes people schedule last minute meetings. And if you've got time to jump into that and it makes sense to do so, it's probably good to do it, especially being new at a place, right? But overall, I think I love the bullet journal for its simplicity, it being on paper, Excuse me just a second here. Yeah. So yeah, it's sorry, I just got distracted by text. Is all. But anyway, to your comment, Greg, would love to see how you capture drafts. Okay. I don't have a way to show it on my phone right now, but I'm going to pop open Obsidian and I'll show you what I do. Honestly, it's so simple. It's kind of ridiculously simple, actually. So, because one, I don't pay for Drafts Pro. I used to, but I can't customize those actions. When I capture something to drafts, I'm literally just writing down the thing. Oh, maybe I had a thought about, I need to figure out what to do with my old audio interface. And I better switch on the screen so you can see them. And then I'll create another note if I have something else that comes up. And say maybe I'm listening to a podcast and I'm out walking around, and then I'll write notes on or whatever, and then I'll just start taking notes there. And then I can come back to my computer, or even if I want to do it on my phone, I can just pop those notes into Obsidian, and I'll sit down and I will review that drafts inbox and just put the stuff where it needs to go. I don't automate it all that crazily. If I can easily share it into somewhere, I will. But honestly, I'm not super crazy about the automation stuff anymore. I'm very much an 80-20 thinker when it comes to a lot of stuff. And so many times I find automations to be great when they actually work, but there are often a lot of fiddliness to get set up, and then they might not necessarily work. I will say, though, that drafts automations generally do work, especially the URL scheme ones. You can fiddle with them quite a bit to get the right behavior out of it, but overall, I'm really simple when it comes to how I use apps these days. I don't have crazy shortcuts set up on my iPhone or anything like that, even though there's a lot of power that you can do in there. I usually try to keep things really simple, and if it's maybe a 3 or 5 step action that I can do faster through a shortcut, great. But if I start getting into doing more than that, then I'm really getting into programming, and I know from experience that programming itself can be a huge hassle over the long run. There's that XKCD. Let me look it up here really quick. All right, here it is. I always think of this in terms of automation. Yeah, the theory is that you're spending a lot of time on this task. You should write a program to automate it. So you're writing code, you're working on the original task, and here's the time it would take to get it completed. Then writing code, automation takes over, and then you have all this free time because you're just not doing it anymore. But the reality of it is that, you start writing the code for it, you're debugging, you're realizing, maybe this isn't a good idea, and then you keep working on it over time, and then now you don't have any time for the original task. But that's kind of what I think about when I think about automation. It's I hate fiddling with stuff. I want stuff to work, and 9 times out of 10, the out-of-the-box solution works 80% as good for me as the fiddly version does, and so therefore, I don't automate. That being said, there are certain things that are fun to automate. Like, for example, the lighting that I have behind me here. I've got 2 Hue Play lights on the shelf, if I can figure out where to point. Right there, I've got this, whatever. This Nanoleaf Elements up here. I've got more Hue lights up here. I've got more Hue lights over there. I have automated a lot of that, just because it's nice to be able to click a button on my phone, or even I have a little light switch over there that's connected into the Hue system, where it just sets everything up. I can turn it on with one button click and it's exactly the way that I want it. I don't have to worry about that. There are automations like that. I also have automations set up. I've got a Stream Deck down here on the desk where it's nice to have certain things automated or even just easy access. You know, like I can click a button and I can go live using OBS, or I can turn my lights off and on. Yeah, make sure they all got back on. So those type of automations, the simple ones that have a high utility, I think are really valuable. But the ones that tend to be more complex, though, if you can save an insane amount of time on them, they can be worthwhile, such as I know, like automating renaming of files. You know, if you have to do that manually, yeah, you're probably going to spend hours doing it. But if you can automate that, yes, that's a really high leverage thing to automate. You're gaining a lot of time back. But yeah, a lot of the more complicated things, unfortunately, I don't do the automation on. So anyway, that's a little bit of my rant on automation. But drafts, love it. Used it for years. Just starting to get back into using it. And yeah, we'll just kind of see how it goes. But I'm just gonna pop into Obsidian here, see if there's anything worth taking a look at. I can't remember what I've done or not recently. I haven't spent a lot of time inside of Obsidian lately. I've been doing some reading in my Kindle, which is then getting synced into Readwise and then into Obsidian. But I haven't been spending a lot of time in the vault itself. I know I haven't messed with the new accent color though, and I don't like the purple, but I do like that blue, so I'm going to use that instead. I know. Check for updates. Update. Use this theme. Just want to see where some of these themes looking. Still some themes that are straggling along a little bit, and that's understandable right now after the big 1.16 change with Obsidian. If you're not aware of that, I think next week I got a video, or a week after that, where it kind of talks about some of those changes. But completely changed user interface. You can see up at the top here now that we have tabs, and now you can also get into tab groups, which is pretty crazy and cool. It's really nice, but then these are also independent of panes, so I can also move this to a separate pane and have a set of tabs per that pane. So nice. Just these little quality of life things that are happening inside of Obsidian right now are great. And then the same person who made the minimal theme, which is a really popular Obsidian theme, made this new base theme for Obsidian. And one of the main advantages of that is that now theme developers have a much cleaner palette to work on when they're building new themes. And so I'm a fan of that. Speaking of which, if you're interested, I am setting up I have set up, let me just pop it in the chat. Well, that URL didn't quite work because I didn't do it. Let me just delete that. I put a new guide out there. So anybody who's a member over on my site, thinkeffective.co, and it's free, by the way, has access to this guide. We're launching a brand new version of Obsidian Made Simple in a few weeks. Francesco and I have been working really hard on that update over the last few months. And trying to keep on top of Obsidian's changes in the meantime, because development really slowed down for a while and now it's really picking back up speed. So anyway, but we're planning on launching that in a few weeks. This guide is a decision-making helper. It's one of the videos from the course in a new module that I've done called Intro to PKM, and it's all designed to help you decide what PKM app you're going to use or what might be best for your specific use case. Again, completely available for free if you sign up there. Plus, you'll end up on our newsletter. You'll get our weekly Toolbox Tips newsletter. You'll also get notified when Obsidian Made Simple version 2 launches. And if you own Obsidian Made Simple already, I believe you will have full access to all of the new content. And so just be aware of that going forward. But yeah, any other questions tonight? I'm going to probably wrap up here in just a minute because I have a couple other things to attend to this evening. It's currently just about 8:15 where I'm at, but I'm really glad to be able to hop on. But happy to take any questions about productivity systems, approaches, PKM, Obsidian, whatever you would like to talk about for the next like 5 or 10 minutes or so. Would love to chat with you. I got the new iPhone 14. I talked about that in the stream on Saturday night, right before the power wiped me out. And I love it. I'm not much of a purple person, I'll be honest. I can't remember if I talked about this on that stream, but this purple is so nice. Like, the light just hits it just right. It looks really purple, but if you look straight on at it, it's like a cobalt color, and it's just kind of fun. But I think what's interesting though is watching Apple be really iterative when it comes to its devices now, instead of making these large leaps forward. You know, the iPhone 11 Pro to the 12 Pro to the 13 Pro to the 14 Pro is just only incrementally better each year. Yeah, so it is what it is. Greg's asking, would love to see your templates for Obsidian for your note-taking. Sure. Happy. Again, it's relatively pretty simple. There will be another video coming out in a couple of weeks too, where I do a full walkthrough of how I use Obsidian, including my folder layout and everything. I can give you a brief overview of that stuff here too. I have a inbox folder up the top. I've just kind of hung on to some of these numbering concepts from when I first started using Obsidian, but that's where all the new notes go to make sure that they end up in the proper folders elsewhere. This 200 life management thing is just kind of an experiment that I threw to the side. Attachments, daily notes, templates, pretty self-explanatory. Journal is anything personal that's not really PKM related, thoughts that I'm working out, other things that I'm just kind of looking at, thinking about. Notes is where all of my permanent notes, literature notes that are not synced in through Readwise, that's where they go. Readwise is where all the Readwise highlights come in. And then reviews is like my yearly themes and annual reviews. I've put them there. I might move those into Notion at some point, but I also kind of like having them here too. Workspace is anything that's work related, but again, I'm moving a lot of that stuff elsewhere. And then writing is stuff that's for writing. Again, not really doing much there. Templates, I've got a few in here. Not a lot. I have this YAML front matter template in here that just basically pops in YAML front matter on new notes. I don't use this as much as I used to. I had a setup previously where if I created a brand new note, it would just automatically populate that in there. And the review template, which you can get this for free too as a member at thinkeffective.co. Just go to thinkeffective.co/guides and you can download this for yourself if you want to use this. But this is just what I go through on an annual basis. Daily note template, something that I was messing with here, not really going forward on that one. Date link, just an easy way to pop a date link into a, like if I want to get to today's daily note, I can just pop it into another note. iframe template, pretty simple. I was messing with that in the past. I haven't used that much recently. Literature notes. So this is a note that I'm taking on something that I'm consuming actively. Most of that is done through Readwise these days, but there are occasions where I will manually take a note on something, where I will link the author, different topics, and the link to the thing, and then I take my notes down under there. You can see that I have tags pre-populated up here, though with literature notes, I do have subtags, a number of them, just because I like to segment those out some. But then with topics, one of the common questions that I often get is, what do you use here? Do you use tags? Do you use links? And I'm a big fan of using tags for kind. So you can see these are all different kinds of notes that I have in here. Literature notes, journal notes, permanent notes, inbox, so on and so forth. Or maybe a status of things. Topics, though, I think are better for this. So if I want to link in productivity, I can do that here. And even though those might be dead links, they do show up in your knowledge graph to kind of help you get a sense of what's connected to each other. A couple of these other things are just other work things that I've done in the past. Permanent notes, pretty similar. Reference is just back to the literature note from where the permanent note is getting linked into. Seasonal review is basically an edit of my annual review template to deal with the season a little bit more easily. Weekly review, not really using it. So basically there's like 2 templates in here that I use on a regular basis. Let's put it that way. But that's my templates, Greg. Upvote is asking, do you write maps of content? Yes, I do. Here's an interesting one. That's not what I was thinking it was. So I use maps of content to kind of broadly organize notes. I've got a few different ones here. Productivity. This one's kind of messy though. Probably my best maps of content is under marketing. I was learning a lot about marketing a while ago. The rest of these are kind of ham-fisted all together, but this marketing map of content is kind of a landing point for all things marketing. Anything that I have been learning about marketing, courses that I have taken. The marketing seminar by Seth Godin was one of them. Advertising, community marketing, content marketing, so on and so forth. General marketing stuff. These are all maps of content from articles that I have consumed or other resources, and I took notes directly on. So for example, the marketing seminar, this is a really fleshed out one because it was an intensive course. But there's a number of different lessons in here where there were prompts and exercises that we were working on. I took notes on the lessons in here as well and did the prompts. So for example, the long tail will pop into here. I was able to take a screenshot and kind of link in this idea. Overall, this is the map of content for that. And then I just kind of get into organizing it a little differently. Some of them have more than others. Let me see. Let me try to find one that had a little bit more. Maybe marketing strategy. No. You can see it's just a little bit by bit here, but it's segmented by topic area. And there's a reason for that. It's just because it just made more sense to segment it out. There's so many moving parts and pieces to marketing. But then I have some broad stuff up here. So that's what I do for maps of content. I do it largely for specific areas that I'm studying. I know I have a video that I've done on maps of content in the past. One thing that is interesting with it is that some of these older maps of content, I just kind of plopped links to notes in there, and that didn't really work out very well for me. I love, though, the idea that maps of content can be used to gather existing ideas together into one spot, or it can be a launch point from a bigger idea into understanding the little bits of it quite well. But with that, I think I'm going to wrap up today. I really appreciate you folks having taken the time to join me on the stream. Be sure to hit the like button too, because it does help people find this stream after the fact, so they can watch the video on demand. Would love if you'd be able to do that. And if you have a chance to head on over to thinkeffective.co/5q to get that guide and get updated on when Obsidian made simple launches. Yes, Nicholas, you just missed the stream, but you know what? OBS didn't crash and the power didn't go out today, so I think I'm doing pretty good. Actually made it through a stream today. Thank you everyone for joining. I really appreciate it. Let me know in the comments too, if you're watching this after the fact, if there's anything that you want us to talk about or cover on the channel. Always happy to do that. And yeah, that's really it for today. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate you being a part of this. I'll catch you in the next one, but until then, stay effective.